Los Angeles gangsters, a farmer's market, botched surgery, and a movie star. All pieces of a tragic Hollywood story. The story of Jean Spangler, a young woman who gained fame for all the wrong reasons, whose disappearance over 75 years ago still plagues loved ones, investigators, and the world alike. Today we'll be breaking down what we know, the theories, and what we believe most likely happened. Jean Spangler was born in Seattle, Washington on September 2, 1923. She and her family moved to the Highland Park area northeast of Los Angeles. The area provided all the small-town charm, while just being a stone's throw from the heart of Hollywood. Spangler attended Benjamin Franklin High School and had big dreams of a life on screen as an actress. She was outgoing and participated in social events, including their high school's ice skating club. As a teenager, she also jumped headfirst into the entertainment industry, dancing with the Earl Carroll Theatre at the Florentine Gardens. This massive nightclub has a link to another infamous crime we'll revisit later. In 1941, Spangler graduated high school and fell in love with a plastics manufacturer named Dexter Benner. The pair married a year later. Sadly, their whirlwind romance didn't last long. After a few rough years together, the couple ended up filing for divorce. She cited cruelty as the main reason for splitting up. They did continue on an on-again, off-again basis, but their relationship remained strained and things were only going to get more complicated. In April of 1944, Spangler gave birth to their daughter, Christine. Benner was originally granted custody of the child in 1946. The news was somewhat sensational and just the kind of gossip tabloids jumped on. The Los Angeles Times and other publications followed their custody battle closely. This was not the kind of breaking into the industry story Spangler was hoping for. Benner denied Spangler any right to see their daughter. Ultimately, Spangler won what the LA Times referred to as a, quote, bitter custody battle. Cut to 1949. Spangler's career is moving steadily. She hadn't landed any major roles, but was actively getting extras and background work through the Screen Actors Guild. Her latest role in the film Young Man with a Horn included major movie star Kirk Douglas. Sadly, that's when everything went terribly wrong. Here's all we know from the last time Spangler was seen. It's Friday, October 7th, 1949. Spangler's mother Florence is out of town visiting relatives in Kentucky. The 27-year-old Jean Spangler plans to leave her 5-year-old daughter Christine with her sister-in-law Sophie at her own Park La Brea apartment complex on Colgate Avenue. Sophie told reporters that, quote, she came down the stairs and asked how she looked. She smiled at me and then her little girl Christine asked where she was going. Going to work, Jean answered again, but she winked at me when she said it. Technically, investigators were told that Spangler claimed she was going to meet with her ex-husband to demand more child support money. After that, she was going to go to work as a bit player in an overnight shoot at Warner Brothers Studios. This wasn't uncommon for Spangler. Of course, that odd wink left many to wonder whether she was admitting to the work being a cover-up. We'll revisit that piece later. At 5:30 p.m., Spangler leaves the apartment complex in the heart of the Miracle Mile area of Los Angeles. This would be the last time her family would ever see her. They would hear from her once more 2 hours later after she left. Sophie and Florence knew that Spangler would routinely call home when she went out, or would leave her family the number of wherever she was going so they could get in contact with her. In a final interview with Sophie, decades after that night, she confirmed that Spangler called from a phone booth outside a grocery store just a couple blocks north of the apartment. She spoke to her daughter and then reportedly told Sophie to tell her not to expect her home until the next morning because she would be working a full 8-hour shift. By Saturday night, Sophie called the police to let them know Spangler was missing. Flash forward to that Sunday morning. A Griffith Park worker is in the dense brush of the Ferndale area of the park. The worker discovers a handbag with a damaged handle, as if it had been torn from her shoulder. Inside the bag was a mysterious note that still leaves investigators puzzled to this day. It read, "Kirk, can't wait any longer. Going to see Dr. Scott. It will work best this way while Mother is away." The police quickly began fielding the area for any more clues. Hundreds of officers and volunteers combed through the Ferndale area of the park, including dogs. The only suspicious item found was a denim Los Angeles County Sheriff's uniform shallowly buried. Meanwhile, detectives began tracing Spangler's steps. They located a few eyewitnesses who saw her over the span of a few hours that night. One of them was a worker at the farmer's market. This was located just a few blocks north of Spangler's apartment. The eyewitness reported seeing Spangler that time and claimed she was pacing nervously. They also claimed she was repeatedly checking her watch for the time. It looked like she was waiting for someone to pick her up. Police also heard from a popular radio DJ from that time who claimed he saw her around 2:30 a.m. Al the Sheikh Lazar claimed he saw Spangler while conducting his usual tableside interviews at a Sunset Strip restaurant. He reported that he saw her arguing with two men she was with. When he tried to approach, the men waved him off. The owner of the restaurant, Terry Taylor, also reported seeing Spangler that night. He said she was at a front table with a clean-cut fellow about 30 or 35. Another somewhat reputable witness police tracked down was an attendant at a gas station. This sighting seemed a bit more unreliable as compared to the others. The attendant, Art Rogers, told police that Spangler came to the station in a blue-gray convertible. The man bought gas and told Rogers he was headed to Fresno. However, just as they were driving off, the woman cried out to the attendant to, quote, "Have the police follow this car." Rogers reported the incident, but nothing ever came of it. To this day, investigators still haven't found any remains of Jean Spangler. The case remains an unsolved missing persons case and was never designated as a homicide. To this day, the case generates plenty of attention for all its noirish twists and turns. But what do people and some investigators believe happened? Let's break down the theories. Amongst the most critical pieces of evidence found was the note in Spangler's abandoned purse. The note mentions a Dr. Scott. Many believe Spangler was trying to get an illegal abortion the night she disappeared. Police interviewed friends of hers who reported that she was 3 months pregnant, though her mother disagreed, or was unaware at least. At the time, police investigated every single Dr. Scott in the Los Angeles area to see if any of them had Spangler on their list of clients, but found no one had her listed as a patient. This wouldn't rule out any doctors performing illegal surgeries who may not go by their actual names. Others believe that Spangler drove south of the border into Mexico to receive the surgery, but faced complications and never returned. Another theory raises the other name mentioned on the note, Kirk. An actor friend of hers, Robert Cummings, claimed that Spangler mentioned a new romance she was involved in around that time. He told the LA Times, quote, "I asked her if it was serious. She said, 'Not exactly, but I'm having the time of my life.' Many believe this is the Kirk referred to, and perhaps the man seen at the gas station. Others believe it's a far more famous Kirk, Kirk Douglas. As far-fetched as that may seem to some, Spangler had just finished working as an extra for a Douglas film. Before police even had a chance to reach out to him, Douglas reached out to police and gave the alibi that he was in Palm Springs the night of October 7th. This is somewhat suspicious, especially in a time when Hollywood fixers were dispatched to, quote-unquote, clean up messes. While first saying he didn't know Spangler at all, Douglas came back and said he did speak to her offhand, as he did with many of the extras. Of course, Douglas was known to be a womanizer and had many affairs, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he impregnated Spangler and the movie studio sent in a henchman. Of course, there's not much evidence to support this besides speculation. Other somewhat bizarre theories claim that Spangler was killed by the mob. During the 40s, the mob was far more active in Hollywood life. Mickey Cohen in particular was considered the godfather of the West Coast. He was a flashy but unlikely suspect. However, some believe that Spangler had started an affair with one of his henchmen, Davey Ogle. His partner in crime was Frank Nicolai, and the three spent a lot of time together. This may validate the sighting at the Sunset Strip restaurant. Not only that, but the pair vanished around that same time and were seen with the two in Palm Springs a few days before she went missing. Another major suspect in the case was Dr. George Hodel. Yes, the prime suspect Hodel in the Black Dahlia murder case around this same time. Hodel lived in a house only a block away from the Ferndale Trail. Not only that, but he also operated a secret abortion ring with a few other doctors. Hodel's own son, Steve Hodel, a retired LAPD police officer, believes his father killed Spangler. However, one of his main pieces of evidence is simply that Spangler and Elizabeth Short of the Dahlia killing look very similar. On the other hand, in the early 2000s, Hodel hired a retired LAPD detective to sweep his father's home from the late 40s. The same home is just minutes from where Spangler's purse was found. The detective used a cadaver dog to sniff out the house, who positively identified human remains. While he hoped to gather further evidence, he was denied by the owners of the home, and his work has stopped there ever since. One of the last theories is that Spangler was killed by her husband. Spangler had mentioned she was going to see Dexter Benner that night to try and get more child support, and then go to work at an overnight shoot. However, police contacted the Screen Actors Guild and confirmed with them that there were no overnight shoots, so this was clearly a lie. It's possible she lied about seeing Benner too. When police interviewed him, he claimed that he hadn't talked to Spangler in months and no plans were arranged to meet with her regarding the child support payments. Benner's new wife of only a few months confirmed he was at home that night. Suspiciously, the police did discover that Benner had been out at sea on his boat that same night. This seems like an odd coincidence. October would also bear some choppy nighttime waters to go boating. Clearly, Jean Spangler's story has enough twists and turns for a Hollywood film. Sadly, we can only guess what most likely happened to her. Taking into account what is known about the case, there are a number of possibilities as to what happened to Spangler. If you boil down all the elements into a simplified version, things may look a little clearer. Statistically speaking, murders are most often committed by a person close to the victim, a partner, lover, spouse, or ex-spouse. For most, the husband did it happens to be a true crime maxim for a reason. In the case of Spangler, the person with the most to gain from her disappearance was her ex-husband, Dexter Benner, who once had primary custody of their daughter, and by all accounts wanted it again. Not only that, but the couple had a very public and brutal custody battle that could have damaged his reputation and driven him to murder. While the police cleared Benner quickly as being innocent, many in Spangler's family did not believe that was so. Her mother Florence reportedly felt confident over the years that her daughter was murdered by Benner so that he could gain full custody over Spangler's daughter, Christine. Benner clearly had much more to gain from removing Spangler from the picture. After Spangler disappeared, Benner did everything he could to take full custody of his daughter, Christine. However, a judge who spent time with the child believed that it would be best for her grandmother, Florence, to retain visitation rights. Benner refused to comply, and he was held in contempt of court. Benner fled the state of California with his new wife and child, and Florence would never see Christine again. These shocking actions do seem harsh, and might indicate just how far Benner was willing to go to get what he wanted. Of course, we may never truly know what happened to Jean Spangler. Her remaining relatives purchased an extra cemetery plot next to her mother, Florence's, so that their remains can be together if she is one day found. Jean Spangler would be 101 years old today.